front hub off the driver's side. We might release the video that shows me taking it off, but as I explained at the beginning of the video, we were actually in a wind tunnel at the time. So now what I've got to do is line the press part up. Basically got all these different sized press parts, and I've put the relevant one in there, which is a 46 for this bearing, and then now it's a case of jacking down, and as the jack goes, making sure it stays centralised so we get an even pressure on the bearing, so we don't push the bearing out at an angle and lock it up and damage the hub. Because ideally I don't want to have to buy a whole new hub. Again, we're still unsure whether these are taper rollers or full length sort of rollers. Could potentially be either type because this particular model, this particular year, it was a mix. Rather than move the piece up, I'm just going to put more pieces in just to stack. You can alter the height of it, but it's going to be as quick just to put smaller formers in. That way we're not going to get a former stuck in the slot. Again, it's quite a slow process, but you know, you're working hydraulics and you're looking at producing 12 tons of force if it needs it. I'm hoping with this, considering there's a bit of wear in, we might not need the full 12 ton force, but it's there if we need it. So like I say, we're coming down now. Just going to add another couple of formers just to be sure. I think we're going to start stroking out. So like I say, I could move the bed up, but for now we will go with this. Okay, we're just now starting to work. As you can see, hey up, it's come out. So that in it, oh, and it is a taper roller. Okay. The fact that it dropped out like that does prove that there must be a bit of wear in it, because obviously it wasn't holding its full force. So that came out pretty quick. So the fact it's a taper roller, that means we've got, let me just lift that off, it's quite bloody heavy. So we've got one taper roller on the hub, and there'll be a second taper roller in the back of the main sort of carrier unit. So the next job's going to be getting that taper roller off, ideally in one piece so I can present it to it's not very free to, oh yeah, you can feel that. You probably can't hear it, but you can feel it. That's quite gritty. I would say that's the original, so it's done since 2001. Can't remember what mileage we're up to now on the motorhome. I did mean to look for, we left last night. I think they're probably around about the 58,000 mile mark. I know that's not a great lot, but you know, motorhomes and camper vans do tend to sit around a lot, to the point that in some cases you can actually get a flat spot on the tyre. Well, if you can get a flat spot on the tyre, imagine what it's doing to the bearings if they're just sat in one spot for a long time. You know, you're putting all the entire load of that vehicle in one spot, and then you're asking it to spin up at a moment's notice. So that's part one of the bearing removal done. We now know what sort of bearings we're on. Oh, that's interesting. The back one, I don't know if you can see that, back one is actually, is actually already loose. So I would say that's probably the one that's failed. Yeah, for it to be that loose inside the carrier, that isn't right. I would say that the these rollers in this one have probably packed up the fact that we can do that with it. Yeah, we could almost, if it wasn't for the dust shield here, that would probably come out all on, well, it will come out all on its own. So I've just got to put that dust shield off, so I need to go and get myself I haven't got one here, tire lever, because it looks like the dust shield's started to actually come out, because that should be flush to that body. So dust shield's already starting to come out. So I'm guessing it's probably the back bearing that's gone more so than the front, but the front does feel, yeah, that feels gritty. So if nothing else, it's definitely made a start. But the fact that this is wobbling around like that is not what I would expect. Okay, so I'll cut the video there, and I'll try and clean my hands up a bit and get the appropriate tools for popping that out. Thank you for now.
Yeah.
Right, so as you can see, we've got the carrier, we've got the hub, the outer bearing, spacer, and then this is the inner bearing, which if you can hear, it shouldn't really make that noise. Because you can't get behind the bearing to actually take it off, you can press them on. But what I'm going to have to do now is with the small cutter is cut the race and then score the inner bit, which is this bit, and then give it a good wallop, and that should then split it. Of course, I'll also put some heat onto it, because now we're down to just the inner part of the bearing. Once I've cut this off, we can put a bit of heat onto that, and that'll actually expand it, and it might even not need to have that score, but normally if you put the score in, it actually allows that area to expand more because of the metal spinner, and quite often then you can literally just drift it off.
Kyoto's coming to out. Oh no, she's gone now.
So yeah, that's the one that's definitely making the noise, as you can hear, and that is actually the outer bearing, because that's where your wheel bolts onto. So that is the outer bearing that's making that noise, because that's the inner bearing. That was actually in that end. So yeah, because that would normally go like that. So yeah, so we've definitely got a worn out bearing. Right, I will crack on with that. I'm sure you don't want to see the boring thing of me using a mini cutter and heating the thing up and drifting it off, but that's basically down to component parts. The actual inner, because that's the inner, yeah, that's the inner dust cover. The actual outer dust cover, that was the state of it, and it actually came over the top of the bearing. And if you actually look, there's a bit of distortion there. So whether it's, yeah, whether you can see it, there's distortion there. That should be perfectly round. That's got a dip in it. So whether this outer bearing at some points got too hot, whether a previous owner has had the brakes dragging, because I know we've had no brake issues with dragging brakes or anything, but for some reason that's potentially, you know, it hasn't blued it, so, but yeah, it's definitely not a happy bearing, that isn't. Yeah, it's just that one. Oh no, there's a spot there. Yeah, so for some reason that cage has started to distort, which would then alter how these rollers would play on the inner race, which is still in there. I've got to get that sort of race out on both sides. There's actually a piece of metal there that basically you punch out, and then we'll press the new ones in with the appropriate size drift. But they're what the actual bearings run on. But because we're fitting new bearings, you always replace them as a whole unit. like I say, if I'd have thought on and got one of them out for you, I could have showed it put on. But basically, you can see it's this piece here, and there's one at the back as well, and they go against them rollers. Just trying to see if there's any bluing on that. Doesn't look too bad, but for some reason that's distorted. And the fact that the dust cover had let go as well. I don't know what's in there, because that dust cover should actually be on the other side of the bearing against there, and it stops mud, water, grit getting into the bearing, stops the grease getting out. So yeah, that's definitely a poorly bearing. Okay, we'll catch up with you some other time, and bye for now. Alright, so we're now going to drift the outers for the bearings. Move him out of the way. So first off, we ideally want to put the carrier up a bit so we got clearance. One punch, get on the edge of the outer and work around, make sure it comes out square. You can hear the note changing as it starts moving. And that's the outside one off. So like I say, they run on the bearings like that. These are fixed to the carrier, and then the hub rotates around it. So that's the one to that one. So if we flip it round and do the same again. So get on the edge. Tends to be awkward in the second one, but it is doable. There we go. And as you can hear, notes changing again. It tells us everything's moving. And
Tiffany's granddad does all the jobs for her that she needs doing on a motorhome, as he's a retired mechanic.
And that's the second one out. And that is hiding under there. And that one would go on that bearing. And again, it would be that way in. You can hear on that that one's not so good. Like, okay, yes, most of the grease is now off, but that shouldn't make that noise. So that's the bearings off already. Well, that's, like I say, I've still got to do this, but now we've actually got bearings that have got their identity. In this case, the back one is a Timken. It's an XAB 320-10X ISO class, made in France, which I'd expect Ducati and Peugeot Citroën tend to share a lot of the same production. So, but it's good make, Timken, good make. And like I say, we've actually got the code there that the suppliers can cross-reference and get us the right ones. Hopefully they'll give us Timpexes again, Timkins again, sorry, and we can chuck them back together. Right, so like I say, the only thing now is to mutilate that without mutilating the fine finish on that. So yep, there we go, we're even closer now to getting the replacement bearings. I'm probably going to clean all this and give it a lick of paint just so as it looks better once it's back on the vehicle. I've got the backing plate that goes behind the brake disc here with us as well. That looks rather grotty as well, so I'll probably use some anti-rust solution on that and then give that a lick of paint as well, because as many bits as we can keep going, the better. Right, bye for now. Okay, so as per Tiffany's instructions, I've cleaned everything up, and stuck some paint on. I couldn't find any black, so I've got a can of Oxford Blue garage door paint by Amorite, so why not use that? There's the hub ready for receiving the new bearings. There's all the old bearings. I'll put that away. The centre spacer for the bearings, and one of the press dies, so I'll have to get back in the box before I lose it. So next thing is take the old bearings in, take the old bottom ball joint in as well, which I brought home with me, and order 2 sets of bearings, 2 lower ball joints and 2 track rod ends. I've got a set of the anti-roll bar stabiliser rod bushes coming, because again you loose them off, and we will show a full-blown tear down when we do the passenger side. This had to be done the speed it was done at, just so as I can A, find out what bearings we're running, and B, so we can get this stuff ordered, because we're on quite a tight schedule to an effect, because we want to make sure that everything's up and running and working properly, because we don't want to break down when we're in France. That's it for now. Like I say, I'll show you the put back together, and then we'll go into the total strip down on the passenger side when we got this one built up. Bye for now.